probably the Paul Slade question first, wasn't it? Hope everyone's safe and well. It's been a while since we had an update on remastering and release of the phone books, and I'm very curious to know where that program stands at the moment. So I'm gonna start with that one.
Okay.
I think I might be making a mistake doing that, but that's what we'll do. Which volume is now at the front of the queue for release, and what's the best estimate on when that release might come? I didn't have this list the last time that we did Please Hold for Dave Sim. Now I do have the list of the books that need to be remastered and are in the process of being remastered. The one at the top of the list is Form and Void, which has been out of print for the longest time, probably 2 years, 3 years, because it was just, it's not one of those books that sells very well, and I didn't want to be bugging Diamond Comics to buy 1,000 Form and Void when it was far more important to get Jaka's Story and Cerebus and High Society back in stock down there. Those are always, Cerebus and High Society particularly, are always the priority books. I did get paid for the Spawn 10 Kickstarter by Waverly Press. Aardvark Vanaheim got paid. And that is probably the largest amount of money that will ever come in, ever again. The same way that Spawn 10 back in 1993 was as good as things were going to get with Cerebus and Dave Sim and Aardvark Vanaheim, and everything was downhill from there to issue 300. I think we're in the same situation here. The Spawn 10 Kickstarter is probably the best possible result that we could get in terms of sales and response, and getting people interested in Cerebus even tangentially, and everything's downhill from here. So I made the judgment call to say, okay, since this is the last big chunk of money that's ever coming in, I'm going to send most of it, not all of it, to Sean Robinson for the remastering. So all of the remastering is paid for. Obviously, Sean's not going to be able to do it overnight, but it's one of those, I don't have to just watch the money trickling away as it always does and going, okay, 6 months ago I had enough money to remaster 6 trade paperbacks. Now I don't. So I have no idea where the money's going to come for these other trade paperbacks. The list is Form and Void, The Last Day, Flight, Guys, Rick's Story, Melmoth, and Latter Days. Melmoth and Latter Days are at the bottom of the list because I still have inventory on those, and pretty substantial inventory. I think there's like 700 copies of Latter Days and 500 copies of Melmoth, or something like that. So those are always in place, and obviously Diamond's a lot happier with being able to order just 50 copies at a time. I don't make money, a lot of money on the 50 copies. It'll be an $800 order, which Rolly goes and gets out of the storage unit, and then takes over to packaging too, and they package it up according to Diamond specifications and send it out to Diamond by UPS and do all of the customs and whatever other charges. So it usually costs, for an $800 shipment of books, it'll cost anywhere between $300 and $400 just to ship them. But I'm not really in the situation of expecting the trade paperbacks or the direct market or Diamond Comic distributors to provide a livelihood for me. It's just, I want to make sure that anybody who does want to get Cerebus and starts reading Cerebus can get all of the trade paperbacks from Diamond. So if I don't make money on that, that's fine. At least it exists as a possibility of somebody is not going to be in the situation of, getting up to volume 8, volume 9, whatever. It's out of print, and now they're going, now what do I do? I've read 7 of these volumes. I want to keep reading. And it's like, well, it's very, very difficult to keep books that don't sell very, very well at all in print. So, getting back to Paul, your question, Paul, the front of the queue for release, well, there you go. I've given you the list of the titles and what order they're going to be done in and why they're going to be done in that order. What's the best estimate on when that release might come? There are just way, way too many moving parts right now in terms of how long it takes to get this done. Like I said, I got paid for, Aardvark Vanaheim got paid for Spawn 10, and of course, nobody has their Spawn 10s yet. I still haven't gotten the platinum covers to sign. Dagan hasn't gotten anything from the printer that he's using in the way of proofs or anything like that. And what I've told him is I don't want to be paid for the High Society hardcover until everybody or most people have gotten their Spawn 10 packages, because I just don't think that's right. It's not my fault, and it's not Dagan's fault that these things aren't moving any more quickly than they are. The printers are all getting swamped because everybody who is doing movies and plays and live performances and songfests have now turned into on-paper people or online people and are, clogging up the works. We've got way too many publishers at this point relative to what we had as publishers before. So I have no idea how that turns out. Like, I don't know how badly I'm cutting Aardvark Vanaheim's throat saying, I don't want to get paid for the High Society hardcover until people are getting their Spawn 10 packages and everything's going along fine with that. But I do want to adjust to the new reality, which is delivery is very, very unreliable, and all these things have to be delivered multiple times. Something that I have to sign has to be delivered here. Rolly has to package it, and then it has to go out to either Dagan James or somebody else who is going to be doing the packaging for Waverly Press. And at a point where you never know when something is going to take weeks, that should be taking days. And Waverly publishes a lot of stuff, and they have this experience with several of the books that they're in the process of getting done, that everything is just ground to a complete halt. So in terms of when that release might come, the release is one question. When it would be made available is another question. When it would get shipped to you is another question. And when you would receive it is yet another question on top of all of those questions. All of which, all we can do is just sort of shrug and go, beats hell out of me. I have no idea how long it's going to take to do these. We are discussing other possibilities. One of the things that that Dagan has suggested is instead of doing Kickstarters where, well, the next one's going to be Cerebus number 2. So instead of doing a Kickstarter for Cerebus number 2, where the thing that you're selling people doesn't exist, and getting in all the money, and then starting the process of making that thing exist. Like apart from the artwork, I'm, getting the covers done right now. Why not print all of the Cerebus number 2 and just guess how many we're going to need, and then put the rest of them on Cerebus Overload, and they'll either sell at a very brisk pace or a not so brisk pace, but they will sell over time, and we do have other places to sell them, and hope that compresses the fulfillment end of things, where if instead of saying we're going to be doing a Cerebus number 2 Kickstarter, we didn't say anything and got the Kickstarter all done. Here's all of these boxes of books. Here's all of the Gemini mailers that they're going to go in. Here's everybody's address that we've already been selling to. These books are all set to go. Michael R's number 26 is sitting in a Gemini mailer with Michael R's address in Easton, Pennsylvania. It's all set to go. All we have to do is announce it, and Bob's your uncle, because Michael R pays for it. It goes straight into the mail, and hopefully he gets it, a week later instead of 4 months later. How workable that is, we don't know. It's always, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Let's do what we're not doing, and what we decide to do will work better than what we are doing. There's no guarantee of that anywhere in our new COVID-19 reality, and our new universal online mail and FedEx and UPS reality, where everything has to come in that way. So the best that I can do is say, I will be suffering right along with everybody else. I would really be much happier having the insulation from the High Society hardcover. I've got the figures here somewhere. If you'll just bear with me for a couple of moments. Yes, there it is. So there was $30,000 profit. So yeah, $30,700. AV share was $15,350. Obviously, I would be a lot more comfortable if I knew that check was on the way to me, which is what Dagan was saying. I'll put this in the box with all of these samples of Spawn 10 stuff and High Society trading cards and Regency notepads and High Society notebook postcards, fine art prints, enamel pins, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, that would really be the cherry on the top, but I just can't, in good confidence, doing that when I know when it comes to, well, when are they going to get these hardcovers? It's like, I don't know. If you told me 3 months from now, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. If you told me 6 months from now, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. If you told me 3 weeks from now, like we're finally over this hump, and now things are going to go a lot smoother, at least on a temporary basis. Because I don't know that, I think I have to wait for my reward if everybody else has to wait for their reward. I realize the scheduling of these books is a complicated matter at the best of times. Yes, indeed. Relying largely on Diamond's existing stock of each unmastered volume, but any indication you can give would be good to have. So that's the intel on that. Uh, like I say, I'm also mentally getting into a situation where I would like to just print up 1,000 copies of the new edition of Form and Void, which is done being remastered. That went very, very quickly. I went and got the artwork from the off-site storage, and as best I could, mostly one-handed and definitely one-wristed, bringing the pages back here and then rolling, scanning them out back at Camp David, and then taking them back to the storage facility. That went very smoothly. Gerhard had already scanned all of his Form and Void pages, and that was one of those, okay, now I'm going to find out the bad news. How many Form and Void pages are missing? Because we never sold any Form and Void pages. I have the Cerebus archive pages. Gerhard has the Gerhard pages, and anything that is missing inexplicably, which is just one of the things that happens for some reason with this volume of artwork. So there was 3 pages missing. The 2-page spread of Jaka cutting Cerebus's hair in the tent with Mary and Ham in the distant background. Those 2 pages are gone, and one of the pages from, I think, the issue before that is gone. And it's like, as I say, there's no explanation of where they would go. Artwork literally just disappeared. And very, very disheartening, but it's one of those, probably just God's way of telling me, well, this is the drawback of doing a 6,000-page graphic novel. You'll never be able to keep all of those cats herded. I'll tell you all about it on Judgment Day. I'll explain the whole thing and you'll understand. But sorry, Dave, you're just going to have this absolutely stomach-dropping moment repeatedly every time that you have to go and get the artwork, and you're hoping it's all there, and it's never going to be all there. And it's like I'm already missing, in my mind, 2,300 pages from the Cerebus archive. How many more pages am I going to be missing? And how many more pages is Gerhard going to be missing? It's like any page that just isn't there is, it's a page that I don't have for the archive, and that Gerhard doesn't have to sell somewhere up ahead. I ask because it's the remastered trades which interest me far more than anything else AV is putting out at the moment. I get the impression that the focus is now drifted away from that program, which would be disappointing if true. It hasn't really drifted away. It's just been not possible up to this point. Up until 2020 and up until the situation with Waverly Press, it was the money that comes in basically just goes to pay bills, and I would, transfer out of the U.S. account into the Canadian account. I haven't had to do that since August 27th, 2020 was the last time I transferred out of the U.S. into the Canadian account. So that's good news. It means that there is money for the remastering, which was always a priority, remastering and keeping the books in print. But if you don't have the money, you can't do it. I'm not going to borrow money to bring Foreman Boyd back into print. It's a very, very good book. I'm very, very proud of it. Certainly far more proud of it than I am of Cerebus and High Society. But you can't argue with the market. It's like saying, it's like Paul McCartney saying, Flowers in the Dirt is a much better album than, Meet the Beatles. And it's like, well, you can say that until you're blue in the face. People would rather talk to you about Meet the Beatles and talk to you about the songs on Meet the Beatles than they want to talk to you about Flowers in the Dirt. It's like, sorry, we're throwing your flowers in the dirt because they're your flowers, they're not our flowers. So, like I say, the situation is now that that's moving along in the scanning stage, and then with the 3 missing pages, all the Foreman Void negatives that are on the flat had to be cut apart, and Rolly had to find the missing 3 negatives for those 3 pages. I gave him the 2 issues to take home so he could be watching for pages that looked like that while he was cutting the negatives apart. And then the notes that are in the back, those are all in the negative form. And there was a fair amount of back and forth between Rolly and Sean, because we've got a scanner that's actually built to scan negatives specifically. That is the best scanner on the market for scanning full-size photographic negatives. And Rolly would do 2 or 3 and then email them to Sean. And it's like, it just wasn't working. There was a shadow from the image on the negative that was being cast at the scanning process. So they went back and forth. I tried to remember, okay, the last time that we did this, it was Rolly's aunt, Karen Funk, who was doing the scanning. We ran into this problem. What is it that we did? So I tried to remember what I could remember of it and sent Sean a fax about that. And then 2 days later, whatever it was, he and Rolly got it sorted out, and the negatives came in. The scans of the negatives came in. Absolutely perfect. Sean is very, very enthusiastic about Foreman Boyd. It's going to be a really, really gorgeous book. The remastering was a very different process because it's 100% black and white. That was Gerhardt's call after he was done doing the F. Scott Fitzgerald book, going home, and instead of doing all of his cross-hatching, it's like, well, I'll do mechanical tones. Mechanical tones will go faster, and it's like, I don't know, you might want to give Ken Stacy a phone call about that. Ken Stacy went through the same thing when he decided to go tone heavy, and it's like, it's just a different set of problems. But I'm perfectly happy to have that happen. I'm sure you'll do a wonderful job, and he did a wonderful job learning how to use all of these different grades of tone. This is the 10%, this is the 20%. If I put this over here and that over there, it's going to look like a real sunset. It's going to look like genuine shadows on the barge. All of those kinds of things. But it's like, okay, well, it might even have been faster for me to crosshatch all of this instead of cutting it all out and having it stuck in my hair and stuck on my shoes and stuck on my clothes. It's like, well. So when Foreman Boyd came along, he went, let's just do black and white. No tone, no cross-hatching. And it's, he was very, very fond of Mike McNolan's work, which he started seeing intermittently, and went like that, like either black or it's white, and if there's any kind of cross-hatching, it's just a minor amount of cross-hatching. And it's like, okay, I'm more than willing to do that, but I think you'll find out that that's its own set of problems. But it did have a certain number of pluses with it, because it was there was no cross-hatching to fuzz out. It was possible for Gerhard to photocopy backgrounds, just keep the toner in the photocopier up to snuff. And if Cerebus is standing in the same place for 3 panels, and there's just a bunch of tree branches in behind him, then you just draw the tree branches once, photocopy them twice. I usually recommended, no, they either have to all be photocopies. Well, they do have to all be photocopies if you're duplicating the drawn one, because the drawn one is going to have a different texture from the photocopy. I mean, even the black and white is going to fuzz out a little bit, so better that the backgrounds all fuzz out at the same rate. And he understood that. It's okay. We'll move ahead on this. So that became a different problem for the remastering, where Sean was doing more with touching up the paste up line, where, okay, when I'm getting Rolly to scan these at, in this way, and then he's importing them into his computer and starting to deal with the filtering and all that kind of stuff, it's like, okay, this is very, very different from dealing with the cross-hatching, and particularly dealing with the shrunken tone and the stained pages, because these are the later pages. There's not as much staining and just basic wear and tear on them. So Sean's going to have each one of these books that he finally sits down and does the remastering on is going to be a different set of problems. But he's still, I maintain he's still the best pre-press guy in the business, and he's learned a lot more, and he's learned, okay, if something isn't working for this page of Form and Void, you have to figure it all out so that the rest of the pages go smoothly, which they did, with interesting little quirky problems mixed in, like the Grizz beer, the Grizzly beer, that was Ham Erdesway's favorite beer, so it was Cerebus's favorite beer. He said that scanning it from the original art of the label and then reducing it and then digitally putting it in on a small bottle didn't look right. And he's still not really certain why that doesn't look right, whereas if he took the scan of the reduced photocopy that we did and pasted in on Cerebus or Ham's beer bottle, he could fix that and make it look more plausibly part of the artwork than actually reducing the large original version. That's something you're not going to know until you're under the hood and you're up to your elbows and you're going, well, why in the hell would that be? And it's like, well, it's not really one of those, why in the hell would that be? You're probably never going to know that. You know that that is, so you have to deal with it on its own terms. Cerebus in Hell doesn't appeal to me, but I've been buying every issue anyway, in the hopes that this will help to raise money for the continued remastering of the trades, which I think was the book's original purpose. Yes, partly. Service in Hell went from, okay, this is something that will bring in money that Sandy Atwell and I can put together reasonably quickly, and if it's selling 4,000, 5,000 copies, well, okay, it's not a fortune, but it pays me some money, it pays Art Manheim some money, it pays Sandy some money, and maybe it'll catch on. It's like, well, no, completely the opposite. It didn't catch on. It's got its core audience of somewhere between 1,800 and 2,200 people. That got to the situation where David Birdsong is a huge fan of Service in Hell. Benjamin Hobbs is a huge fan of Service in Hell. I know Matt Dow is a huge fan of Service in Hell. I really like Service in Hell. So it became a matter of, well, I'll keep doing it. We'll keep hoping that it sells better. I don't think it's going to, but I'm not going to pull the plug this time as I did with Clamorpuss. It's, well, we'll just have to make it a hobby that we're all going to have, and do things like get issues done through July 2022, because that way it's, well, okay, I'm not really bothered that Amazing Batflark only sold 2,200 copies because I did it a year ago. It's like, who worries about what they did a year ago? I've got high hopes for this thing that will be coming out a year and a half from now. And you know, what do you need to get up in the morning? And that's one of those things that I need to get up in the morning is, here's something that I really, really like doing, and I want to keep doing it. And it just doesn't make enough money to really warrant doing it. But definitely major thanks to you, Paul, and to everybody else who's buying Service in Hell and really doesn't like it. Where did I leave it? Personally, I'm not interested in the remastered original issues either, but a lot of other people clearly are, so I'm hoping they might be helping to finance the future trades program too. Is that the case? Yes, definitely. We're in the situation now that Waverly Press has done Cerebus #1 and Spawn 10. Cerebus #1 brought in whatever it brought in, like 50,000, and Spawn 10 brought in 95,000. Now the question is, okay, what's going to happen with Cerebus #2? I have to say that Dagan is a cockeyed optimist in a way that I haven't been a cockeyed optimist in a long time, that he really thinks that it is possible to build a new audience for Cerebus. And it's like, I think we're too far into the feminist nightmare for that to happen. But I'm always willing to be proven wrong. And I'm certainly willing to do what I can do to help Dagan to try and attract new people. And one of the ways that I think is his theory of how this is going to attract people is you have to be able to sell them a Cerebus #1 that isn't going to cost them $800, and they don't have to buy a whole trade paperback to go with it. They can just get Cerebus #1, and then 6 months later, 8 months later, you can offer them Cerebus #2 on the same basis. So it's like, okay, it could take 5 years, 6 years, 8 years for us to find out, okay, where's the drop-off point? Where do the new audience people and the Cerebus fans themselves go, all right, I bought #1, #2, #3, #4, #5, #6, #7, #8. I'm all done. I don't want to have a facsimile and a gold and a platinum version of all 300 issues. And it's like, it was the same as Dagan said. We've had interest expressed for facsimiles of Cerebus number 26 and 27. And it's like, I don't think you can do that. I'm sure that they would sell very well because, again, it's the beginning of high society, and I could do 3 or 4 high society #1 covers kind of thing. But you can't do that when you've just sold them #1 and getting ready to sell them #2, because now you're backing them into the idea that they're going to have to buy numbers 3 through 25, because they're not going to be interested in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 26, and 27. So I already know that about comic book collectors and comic book fans. I think one of the elements with that is if you're buying as an investment, like someday you hope that what it is that you bought is worth a lot of money. When I was talking to Doug Salipa, he pointed out that comic books go up in value. Trade paperbacks tend not to. That a lot of that issues from Overstreet, because Overstreet is obsessive and micromanages the whole comic book value situation, and has done since 1970. You're just not going to move sideways into also the book collection. Consequently, almost all trade paperbacks are still going for cover price or less than cover price. Whereas comic books, depending on their rarity, which is one of the things that we're selling here, Dagan's going to be machine numbering the Spawn 10, we machine numbered the Halloween edition. This is a comic book that if you get it encapsulated by CGC, it's one of 54. The Cerebus audience and the market for Cerebus, however wide it is, it's definitely wider than 54 people, and particularly something that's attached to Spawn. Most of the Spawn fans don't even know that these things exist. So I think it's a good investment. It's instead of hoping Cerebus in Hell sells better somewhere up ahead, and it does intermittently. I mean, Backbark Penis was this amazing hit for us. I think it was like 9,000 copies in total sold. I'm almost ready to just do a new Backbark Penis every month, in addition to Cerebus in Hell, to pay for Cerebus in Hell, or do a multiple Backbark Penis covers for $100 each, and only sell 50 of those. And well, there you go. You have this extremely rare comic book. So yeah, in terms of that was Backbark Penis was a major cash infusion, and Cerebus #1 was a major cash infusion. What Cerebus #2 is going to do in terms of cash infusion is a whole other question, and that's why I'm saying to Dagan, we're going to do #2, and if #2 sells, like we're not looking for Spawn 10 numbers, but if it sells at or close to Cerebus #1 numbers, there's not a huge drop-off, and there is a level of interest from new people, then we do #3. And each time we're sitting down and looking at the numbers and going, okay, what we're looking for is the exponential drop-off, where it's like we know it was coming. Here it is. Number 6 is the last one, or number 7 is the last one. But yes, definitely, that's where excess revenues coming in are being able to move the other projects along, so that yes, the remastering can be done. Yes, each of the new remastered trade paperbacks will also be a hardcover. That's being put in place as well. I got a phone message from Todd Hignite at Heritage Auctions telling him that he will be getting the number 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 High Society hardcovers for Heritage Auctions to auction, and leaving it up to him how they were going to do it. And it sounds like they're going to do a countdown. You will be able to bid on number 10, number 9, number 8, number 7, number 6, and we're hoping for a huge hockey stick curve on the number 1 hardcover. So I've already got a near complete Cerebus collection in the original issues, plus all 8 of the remastered trades. And it's these trades which I found to give the saga's most satisfying reading experience. It's also wonderful to see the art with Sean's meticulous restoration and reproduction work, of course. I'm looking forward to Carson's expanded edition of SDOAR 2, though I don't think I shall bother with You Don't Know Jack. It's like, well, I'm really happy with You Don't Know Jack. I enjoy rereading it from time to time. It's never going to be the thing that I'm known for, but really happy with that. And I do think that there are also 2 primary bodies of Cerebus fans. The people like Paul who are gung-ho primarily on the remastered trades and reading those, and the other people who went over to the trade side. Yes, I will get the Cerebus trades. They're on my bookshelf. Now I can sell all of my back issues. And I've decided late in the day, I really like having the back issues. Some of the people who reread all of Cerebus once a year, which boggles my mind, but reread all of Cerebus once a year. Their best reading experience is the notes from the president, the comic, the letters page in the back, the previews, the whole time period ambiance, and the story as part of it. But that's not what they would have the trade paperbacks for. But we're going to do what we can to keep both sides of the audience happy with that. And that having been said, I'm about 5 minutes away from my prayer time, so I'm going to hang up.
Okay.
And then I'll call you back, and we will forge ahead.
Okay. That works.
Okay, take care.
You too, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Bye.